Have you ever noticed how some people apologize for things that were never actually their fault? Someone sounds slightly upset, and instantly their brain starts wondering, did I do something wrong? A friend becomes quieter than usual. Someone replies differently over text. A conversation feels slightly awkward for 2 seconds, and suddenly their entire nervous system starts scanning for emotional damage. The strange part is, nobody even blamed them, but they still feel responsible, and this is where it gets psychologically interesting. People who feel responsible for everything are usually not controlling people. Most of the time, they are emotionally hyper-aware people. People whose brains learned very early that keeping everyone emotionally okay was somehow their job. So now, as adults, they don't just experience relationships normally. They monitor them constantly, other people's moods. Tone changes. Facial expressions, energy shifts. Silence. Delayed replies, emotional distance. Tiny signals most people barely notice become emotionally loud inside their mind, and eventually that level of emotional monitoring becomes exhausting. But here's what most people miss. There's a huge difference between caring about people and feeling psychologically responsible for them. Healthy caring says, I hope you're okay. But unhealthy emotional responsibility quietly says, if you're not okay, maybe that's somehow my fault. And once your nervous system learns that pattern deeply enough, responsibility stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling automatic. For a lot of people, this begins much earlier in life than they realize. Sometimes it starts in emotionally unpredictable homes. Homes where tension could appear suddenly. Homes where someone else's mood controlled the atmosphere of the entire room. Homes where emotional peace felt fragile. So the brain adapts. It learns to scan constantly, to notice emotional changes early, to avoid conflict, to calm people down, to prevent disappointment before it happens. And when a child learns that emotional safety depends on managing other people's feelings, they often grow into adults who feel responsible for everyone, even when logically they know they shouldn't. That's why some people physically cannot relax when someone around them seems upset. Even if the problem has nothing to do with them, their nervous system still reacts like, fix it, help, do something. And honestly, modern life makes this pattern even worse. Because now emotional access never ends. Your phone follows you everywhere. Someone can sound distant instantly through a single text message. A delayed reply can trigger overthinking spirals. A short response suddenly feels emotionally loaded. And highly self-aware people absorb all of this constantly, especially overthinkers, especially sensitive people, especially people who learn to associate love with emotional responsibility. And this creates something exhausting psychologically. Hypervigilance. Your brain becomes permanently alert for emotional problems before they even happen. You start trying to prevent disappointment in advance. You over-explain, over-apologize, overthink, overgive. Not because you're weak, because your nervous system believes emotional stability depends on your behavior. And that becomes emotionally draining after a while, especially because people who feel responsible for everything are usually already incredibly hard on themselves internally. They replay conversations afterward, analyze tiny reactions, question whether they sounded rude, worry they disappointed someone. Meanwhile, the other person probably forgot the interaction 10 minutes ago, but their brain keeps replaying it anyway, and eventually uncertainty itself starts feeling emotionally dangerous. If someone's energy changes, the brain immediately wants answers. If someone becomes distant, the nervous system instantly wants to repair the connection, because emotionally unpredictable situations feel unsafe. Not logically unsafe, emotionally unsafe. And this is where many people misunderstand themselves completely. They think, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe I care too much, maybe I'm emotionally weak, but often what's really happening is emotional conditioning. Your nervous system learned that paying attention to everyone else was necessary for emotional survival. So now your brain struggles to separate empathy from responsibility, and those are not the same thing. Empathy means understanding someone's emotions. Responsibility means believing their emotions are yours to manage. That distinction changes everything. Because once you start feeling responsible for everyone emotionally, relationships stop feeling relaxing. They start feeling like emotional work. You become the person always checking in, always adjusting yourself, always trying to make things smoother. always carrying invisible emotional pressure nobody else can even see, and over time, that creates emotional exhaustion that feels difficult to explain because technically, nothing bad happened. You're just tired, mentally tired, emotionally tired, nervous system tired, like your brain never fully turns off social monitoring, and eventually, people like this often start pulling away emotionally, not because they hate people, because they feel overwhelmed by the invisible emotional weight connection creates inside them. That's why some highly caring people suddenly go quiet, why they isolate, why they disappear for days, why replying starts feeling exhausting, why social interaction slowly starts feeling emotionally expensive, not because they stopped caring. Sometimes because they care too much. And honestly, I think this is the painful irony underneath all of this. People who feel responsible for everything are often the same people secretly wishing someone would finally tell them, you don't have to carry everyone emotionally all the time. Because deep down, many of them are exhausted from constantly trying to prevent disappointment, conflict, rejection, or emotional instability. But here's the hopeful part. Brains adapt, nervous systems learn. Emotional patterns are not permanent personality traits. You can slowly teach your brain that caring about people does not require emotionally managing everyone. You can care deeply without carrying responsibility for every mood, reaction, or emotional outcome around you. And honestly, that realization changes relationships completely. Because suddenly connection stops feeling like constant emotional performance. It starts feeling safer, lighter, more human, and if you recognize yourself somewhere in this video, especially the feeling of constantly carrying emotional responsibility for everyone around you, I hope you understand something important. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed by this. Your nervous system probably learned very early that paying attention to other people emotionally was necessary, but your job is not to emotionally carry every person around you. Your job is not to fix every mood, prevent every disappointment, or manage every emotional outcome. Sometimes people are upset because they're human. Sometimes relationships feel uncertain because humans are emotionally complicated, and not every uncomfortable emotion around you is yours to solve. So maybe the next time you catch yourself feeling responsible for everyone, pause for a second and ask yourself honestly, am I caring about this person, or am I trying to emotionally carry them? Because those are not the same thing. And if this kind of psychology content helps you understand yourself a little more clearly, subscribe to Psyche Simplified new videos every week exploring the hidden emotional patterns behind overthinking, relationships, loneliness, emotional exhaustion, and the psychology of the human mind.